Hello and welcome to Love Samantha Lee, the More Than Just Pretty podcast. I'm your host, Samantha Lee, and here we explore love, life, spirituality, and the relationships, not the relationships, but relationships through the lens of real beauty, the kind that begins the moment you decide to be unapologetically yourself. Join us as we dive into heartfelt discussions that challenge, inspire, and connect us. Are you ready to embrace your true self? Let's begin. What's up, family? I am coming to you live. And y'all, I am kind of on the struggle bus. I'm not feeling the best today. I'm feeling a little down and out. Not sadness, but I don't think I'm feeling well. But either way, y'all, we gonna push through, right? We gonna still do what we gotta do. So today's episode, I'm going to call it whoo child, the conviction. The conviction. I'm going to call it the conviction. So guys, let me be completely transparent with you guys. Before I end with the conviction, the story of the conviction, because that's something that I really want to take a lot of time on. I know we've been talking about the wilderness, and I've learned and I've embraced the fact that I am in fact in a wilderness season where God is calling me to make changes in my life. He's calling me to focus. He's calling me to fast. He's calling me to pray. And I feel amazing. I really do. I really, is it challenging? Absolutely. But this relationship that I'm building with God, y'all, I wouldn't trade it for the world. You know, I'm not a perfect person. I'm not gonna sit here and say that, but I think that just understanding how real God is and how much he's in the details, y'all, it's amazing. With that being said, I could have avoided this wilderness season. In fact, I could have been through the wilderness season into my promised land, family. I realized just probably about a week ago, God gave me a little bit of download. And he had shown me a time in my life where I was going through a very similar season. Problem is, I did not handle that well. And so here I am. I want to say 2 years later, and I'm back repeating the same season, right? And I don't think it's the exact same season, of course. However, it's a very, very eerily similar season, but I'm coming at it from a different perspective. And so a lot of people say, and I've been told this before, oh, you know, the promise, there's nothing you can do to get out of promise. There's nothing you could do, like God's will for your life is going to happen regardless. A lot of people say these things. And I'm here to tell you that's not necessarily true. That I do think that God's promises, there's certain finite things that are going to happen regardless. However, I know based upon where I'm at right now and what God revealed to me recently is that there was an opportunity a couple years ago for me to be done with this process and into a different process. Okay. And I extended my own wilderness season. My wilderness season was only supposed to be X amount of time. I extended it another couple of years. That is the truth. That is the brutal, honest truth. Okay. I did this to myself. And I want to share with you guys why. I want to break down those things and be transparent with y'all because we family. And I want you guys to win. And I feel like this podcast is really about me just being so honest with y'all. So let's get into it. A couple years ago, I felt like God was calling me to be completely single. He was calling me to, there were certain things he wanted me to get in order. There were certain things he wanted me, to really focus on. And I was doing those things. I was not doing them full, how do I say? It was not full obedience. The dating, I wasn't dating, but I was still talking to people. I was still communicating with some people. And there were certain things that I was doing that I was doing full obedience. There were certain aspects of my life that I did feel the anointing on to kind of get in order and things like that. So God was preparing me, right? But the areas that I half stepped obedience is actually what ended up being what sabotaged everything, right? So I ended up having a moment. So this season of my life, now that I reflect back, was like 3 months. It was 3 months of my life. And I was, again, I think that the area that I have stepped my obedience is really what ended up being my I want to say stronghold. It was the thing, it was my Achilles heel. It was the one thing that I think kind of messed me up all the way around. And I'll get into that in a second. But I was doing mostly of what I felt like I was doing, and then there was areas where I was just kind of I went rogue. I did my own thing, but I was still mostly doing what God had called me to do. And so there was a moment in this process where God tested me, and we talked about this last week that God does. He works with us in 3 steps. He gives us a promise. There's a process, and there's a promotion. And so at this point, I do believe there was a promise, and I was going through a process, because process is about character. Process is, okay, are you more committed to me than you are to the promise? That's the whole point. We're going to get into why the title's conviction, because that's going to come up later. And third part is promotion. Okay, if you pass a test, you get promoted. And the promotion comes with authority. The promotion comes with more. It comes with greater. But that doesn't mean you're not going to go through a wilderness again, right? Each level, there's a new situation with every level that we're on. And so here I am. I'm in this situation. I was there for 3 months. I remember the certain things that God was calling me to do. Again, there were certain areas that I was fully obedient, and then there were certain areas that I wasn't fully obedient, or it was my version of obedience, i.e. dating. I wasn't dating nobody. I wasn't seeing anybody in person, but I was communicating with someone. I was communicating with them frequently. So it wasn't full obedience. And we're going to talk about why that's important, okay? So there's a moment where I'm being tested. There was something that I was like, okay, I'm about to be released from my wilderness. Like, this is about to be over. I was so excited. I was just so ready for this, right? So ready for this. I get ready for this moment. I'm like, I go, I'm supposed to be meeting somebody. I go, da da da. Essentially, to make a very long story short, what I thought was going to happen did not happen. Like, it was not going to happen that day. And I did not know when it was going to happen again, right? The test, the obstacle came up. And we talked about this with the Israelites in the wilderness, where they were given a pivotal test. The test, they went to go to see 12 of the spies went to go see the promised land. And what they saw there were giants and opposition that they did not anticipate. They thought it was going to be a cakewalk. They were just going to walk into the promised land and inhabit the land that God had promised them. But no, there were obstacles, and that was intentional, right? So I am walking into the promised land, or God allows me to see the promised land, but there is an unforeseen obstacle. And I have the choice. Thank you, Holy Spirit, because I didn't even think about it like that. I have the choice to say, I'm going to keep and maintain faith regardless. Or I have the choice to say, I'm abandoning everything God told me, because this is not what I wanted. This is not when I said, God, I was going to be obedient, I wanted it to look a certain way. And this does not look the way that I wanted it to look. Okay. I had 2 choices. Just like the Israelites, they had 2 choices. I chose the latter. I gave up. I had a breakdown. I had a tantrum. I was angry with God. I mean, my behavior was inexcusable. Like, I was devastated. Now, worldly people, that were watching me at that moment, were like, they understood like my frustration and things like that. But godly people should have held me accountable, because I had a whole tantrum, and every single thing that was underneath the surface, every single thing, the heat turned up, and what was underneath, the impurities that rose to the surface, were not good. God was revealing to me, there's some areas we need to work on. So that actually probably was more of the beginning of my like would have been more of a wilderness season where God could have cleansed me and brought me to a place where I could handle the other side. But instead I chose to go back to what I was comfortable with, go back to what I felt like I thought I was missing out in, go back to doing what I wanted to do. And y'all, would I looking back now, was that fulfilling? Was that what I wanted? Y'all, no. Like immediately, immediately me going back to what I thought was I was missing out on. Y'all, there was no peace there. I was not happy. I was like, yes, you had moments of like you're doing what you want to do in some way, shape, or form, and it's comfortable, but you know deep down this ain't right. And there was issues there. It wasn't even like peace. Like the person I was communicating with, there was arguments. It wasn't, there was like opposition. Like it was not it, bro. It was not it. And I was fighting to be, to be in this process. And really, I want to be with this person or, more seeing this person. But I was trying to hold out and not do that. And like now I'm like, forget this. I'm gonna go see this person. And y'all, I wouldn't even crack it. I mean, that's no disrespect to the person. It's no disrespect. But it was not, it was the enemy literally just waving a counterfeit in my face. Like it was not at all. Like it was not, it was like a mirage, right? Like you're in the desert and you think you see water or you see a waterfall, but you go up to the waterfall, it wasn't really a waterfall. Like it's never as good as we make it to be. Never. It's when we are choosing our way, and that is not a disrespect or a slight to that situation. That is the truth. The truth of the matter is when you are choosing something that is not in the will of God, it is a counterfeit. It is never going to be as good as what God has for you. Never, ever, ever. It will never be that. We do things that we think make sense for us or what's comfortable for us. Like you watch these shows, y'all, where like people 600-pound life, like they're fighting with their flesh to lose weight. Although they're losing weight is what would be the best benefit to them, their body wants to stay the same. Right? I told you guys the example of drinking and a hangover. Like when you have a hangover, the last thing you want to do is drink water or hydrate. But that is the main thing you have to do to get healed. Our body resists change. Our flesh resists change. It's going to bring up every reason why you should stay exactly where you are. And what God does in a wilderness is he exposes, right? He exposes, he prepares us, he exposes things, he gets those things healed, he addresses those things so that when you get to the promotion, you are in a much more level space and you are prepared for what is to come. It is a preparation season. And y'all, like I said, I extended my wilderness. Now, that is not to say, there's a lot of people say you can't ever get out of the promise of God and this, that, and the third. And I would argue that there are things that God has for your life that no matter what happens, I think I might have said this already, but if I haven't, I'm going to say it again. There are some things that they're going to happen, but there's other things that God has created you to do. Those higher level, those promotional things, those dreams you had as a child, those things, those big things, the big impact that you're supposed to have on this world, those things are only accessed by the wilderness. And if you do not steward your wilderness season well, you will be in that wilderness season and you could die in your wilderness season. I'm sorry, it is what it is. If you are refusing to give up comfort, if you are refusing to give up the things that God is calling you to do, you will not see those prayers answered. You will not see those dreams manifest. You will not. It will not happen. Why? Because that season is to prepare you for promotion. And so some people do not see everything realized. And that is because in this wilderness, it's hard. You're giving certain things up. But this is where the conviction part comes in, right? And I want you guys to really hear me out on this, okay? Please pay attention to all of this. So I went to church on Sunday, and one of the things that Pastor had said, just y'all, it was like a dagger, okay? Because I have been struggling with trusting God for the destination that He's told me I'm going to, the promise. I've struggled with it. The enemy has used it, and just I've doubted. I've fought with doubt, fought to keep my faith. It was just constant. I'm telling you, every day crying, every day just really, really struggling with accepting the really, like, just fully standing in faith for what I believe God was calling me to. And the enemy was just giving me reason after reason after reason as to why it's not realistic, it's not gonna happen, blah, blah. I just reason after reason. And I struggled. I'm like, God, don't tell me this if this ain't gonna happen. Like, take this desire away. Like, please, like, this is weeks and weeks and weeks of this. So on Sunday, God had called me to do something on Saturday. On Sunday, I go to church. And Sunday I'm struggling because what I did, it kind of brought me, like, God is calling me to do little steps of obedience, and I've been doing those steps of obedience. And sometimes when I make those steps of obedience, it doesn't look like what I think it's supposed to look like, right? And I struggle with that. And so I'm like, okay, God, you're asking me to do this, you're asking me to do that, but nothing's happening. Like, why am I doing these things? Like, I don't, like, I get so discouraged because He's calling me to do little things and to be obedient in those things, but I don't see the fruit immediately, right? It's like I sow a seed and I'm like, I want an apple to pop out. I want some type of fruit to come, okay? And God's like, okay, I gotta water this thing. Let me handle this. So Sunday I'm in church, and Pastor says that, and I hope I don't cry because I could cry here, but he says that when we're in certain seasons where God is doing things, and for Christian calendar, it's Lent right now. And so what, y'all, the beeping, I'm sorry, it's my rice is done. So anyway, in the Christian calendar is Lent. So he's saying that a lot of people, when God puts them through a process, they want God to give me, give me, give me. And their behavior is contingent upon getting what they want. And that God, a mature Christian, would say, instead of give me, give me, give me, it's about God, make me. Like, more about your development, more about becoming who you need to be in order to steward whatever you're praying for God to do. That most of us just want gifts, and we want it freely, but in God's way, it's more about who do you become? What is God trying to do within you to develop this character to be able to get to the level that you're asking for, or for Him to promote you to the level that you've been praying for, or to get them out of the situation that you've been asking Him to get you out of, or to go to the next level, or to do. He's like, I can't give you this until you do this. I can't. And a lot of us are unwilling to submit and surrender to process because it's uncomfortable. We don't want to do it. Our flesh is going to resist it. So he says that when we submit to God's process and we're doing these things for an intended goal, meaning that if I'm jumping through these hoops and I'm doing these things to get what I want from God, that is not covenant. That is manipulation. I'm going to say that again. When I'm doing these things and it's like, I want this intended end. God, I'm doing this, but I want that. I'm doing these things. I'm sacrificing this. I'm not eating this. I'm pushing the plate away, but I'm doing this because I want that job, or I'm doing this because I want that relationship, or I'm doing this because I want that car. As soon as that situation does or does not happen, we abandon ship. because it wasn't about the relationship with God at all. It was not about seeking him at all. It was more about getting what you want from God and moving along. And God says, I'm not with that. You're trying to manipulate me instead of really seeking me to genuinely find me. Because he says, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added. So I was like, in that moment, y'all, when he says this is not covenant, this is manipulation, I literally felt God he might have just got me right there. Literally, I'm like, oh my goodness. Okay. All right. I'm shifting in my chair. I'm like, okay, I get it. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one was for me. That one was for me. Because y'all, this is how you know when it looks like it's not going your way, when you're getting frustrated. Oh, well, this is what I wanted, and it doesn't look like it, and it's taking too long, and then you're trying to control the process, and you're worrying about it, and you're chronically worrying about it. That's how you know you're not trusting God. That's how you know you're doing this because you want what you want. This ain't about you and God. This is about what you want from God. And God is like, listen, I made a promise. He made a promise to everybody in the Bible, right? So that I literally went and looked it up. God always started each situation with a promise. Like Moses, he had a promise. Abraham, he had a promise. Noah, he had a promise. David, there was a promise. Joseph, there was a promise. Jesus, there was a promise. Daniel, there was a promise. Jeremiah, there was a promise. There was always a promise. Always, always, always a promise. He started with a promise, but they were committed to the process. They didn't want to control how and the what. And they might have had questions. Even Job, there was a promise, but he might have had questions about the process, but his allegiance never changed. No matter how the process looked, no matter how hard it got, no matter how desperate the situation became, he did not move from the feet of God. He understood that his help came from the Lord. Like he kept seeking God, even though things didn't look like it. And here's the brutal truth. We're obedient until we get what we want, or we're obedient until it doesn't look like it's going to happen. Either way, it reveals to God where your heart posture truly is. Are you really seeking me, or do you really want that? What is your allegiance to? Because God is always testing our allegiance. And what I realized from my last season was my allegiance and my fasting and all the things that I was doing was not about me seeking God at all. It was about me getting from God what I wanted from him. And so he convicted me because I have the nerve to be the type of person, and I'm just being honest with you. I'm the type of person that if somebody comes to me and I don't really understand their motives, I don't really know what they want, I get very weird. I'm weird like that. I'm very suspicious of people's motives. And here I am, I'm having this relationship with God. I'm getting closer to him. And the reason why I don't have peace about this process and the enemy can get me the way that he does is because I haven't really surrendered it. I want to see what he's promising me. So I'm doing these things, but I keep looking over to see, well, it doesn't look like it, doesn't look like it, doesn't look like it, doesn't look like it. And when you're moving like that, you're moving desperate. Just being honest, because you're just going to settle with whatever, because you're not really trusting God. You're calling it trusting God. You trust in you. And as soon as it doesn't look like what you're trusting God for, it's going to reveal to God where your allegiance, where you actually are. Do you really trust God? Are you really doing this to trust God? Or was this about you all along? Because God does want to give good gifts to his children. That is not what this is about. But he starts the process off with, do you have faith about this? Do you have faith? Do you have faith? Faith is the assurance of things hoped for, or the evidence of things. Oh goodness, y'all, is the things hoped for, evidence of things not seen. Like it's not, you do not see it. Like if you could kind of see it, that wouldn't be faith. If it was like when God, I've learned this about God, y'all, and I'll be honest with you. Can I be very honest with you? I hope that I don't sound too far away from the computer right now. I have my microphone on. But when we're talking about God and we're talking about different things, when he works on a certain way, right? God works in a certain way. What does that mean? God doesn't move according to we world goes according to what we see. God goes according to, listen, I'm limitless. Like, if y'all don't, he's like, listen, you might not realize this, but I'm limitless. You may not understand this, but I'm that guy. I can do this. There's nothing that I am limited by. So when I'm doing these things, I'm not promising things I can't do. What I'm doing this is by how much faith do you actually have? How much do you really trust me, or do you trust you? And so these processes are not to be painful. I mean, they are painful. They are supposed to be painful. Let me not even lie to you about that. But it reveals character. It reveals long suffering. It reveals that, hey, can I really trust them with more? Because if they're already giving up, then I can't. When I turn the heat up, what do? And y'all, a lot of us, and I gave you the story earlier because I wanted you guys to understand. I've been there too. I've given up quickly. As soon as it didn't look like it, as soon as there was an opportunity for me to abandon the process, I did. And here I am. And God has given me the opportunity because he is so merciful and he is so gracious. He's given me the opportunity to spin the block. And I've become more, strict about what it is. But with that being said, I've learned in this process, there were certain core wounds that he was trying to heal me from. Because that was the second part of the sermon, was like, God is using this process to reveal things to heal us. Because if we don't heal those things, we're not going to be able to steward the next level of the promise. That's the point of the wilderness. And y'all, I can almost like go on and on about how the things that God is doing, literally, if I was to Google steps on how to heal this wound, what he's done is what you do. Like in real life, if I was to go to a therapist, what God has me doing just by the promptings of the Holy Spirit is what a therapist would tell me to do, is what psychologists and researchers have told me to do. That's how incredible our God is. So let me just be transparent. One of my core wounds, I just found out in this process, because as soon as I heard that conviction, y'all, I ran home. I went to my God, and I listened to John Bevere, and I listened to all these. There's like 8 episodes of this thing called the Wilderness Season. So I listened to all 8 episodes because I was like, okay, God, what do you want me to do in this season? Because I want you to know that I don't care what this looks like. I don't care how this ends. I want you, because none of it matters without you. Like, I don't want to be committed to a destination. I don't want to be. And the problem was, I was so committed to a specific destination. I was getting into the same headspace as I was before, because I've realized that that's a core wound. That is what's coming up for me. All right. I have a core wound of injustice. If you look it up, you'll know what that means. I have an injustice core wound, and that means I'm very rigid. I'm not very flexible. If you tell me something, I'm sticking with that. Anytime it doesn't look like that, I get nervous, I get scared. Like, I am one of those people. Like, if you tell me we going at this time on da-da-da day, we got to go on that day. Like, I am not flexible. I'm very inflexible in how I go about life. Like, that's how I am. It's helped me in certain ways, because, like, if working out, I don't care what I feel like. I don't care what's going on. I'm going to do that every single day. If it's something that I'm putting my mind to, I'm very rigid. I'm very strict. I don't move around, which in some facets are great. In other facets, it's terrible, right? Especially in relationships. And so God, in his sovereignty, was revealing to me that in order for, when God gives us a promise, The successful way to go about a promise is an open hand posture, meaning that it's like, God, this is my dream, and I believe that you can do it. Now, however you decide you want to do this, I trust you. I'm just going to trust your promptings. I'm going to trust your timing. I'm going to trust how this goes. But I am giving you this. It's my Isaac. When Abraham was faced, he's called the father of faith. So he is our best example. When Abraham was given the instruction to put Isaac on the altar, he said to himself, well, if God is calling me to put him on the altar, I know that this is the same God that can raise this child back up. That is what he thought. He said to himself, listen, I trust God enough that if I do take my son's life, if that is what is called of me, I believe he can raise him from the dead. So he was going to do it with the faith that if God's, whoa, y'all, come on. I'm sorry. I can't. That is the level of faith that he had. He was faithful all the way up until putting a knife to his son's throat. I know that's graphic. I know that's crazy. This is the son that was promised to him. He said, listen, I have so much faith in God that if I was to do it, I know he can raise him up. Because I know the promise is that I'll be the father of many nations. I will have many, like my son is going to have a lineage, and it's going to be a significant line. And so he's got to raise him back up because that's what God promised him. Oh, y'all, come on. I'm sorry. I'm getting excited, but I have to let you guys know what I've understood about the wilderness is the wilderness season, family, is not about punishment. It's not about it at all. It's about revealing aspects of yourself that you may not even be aware of until the temperature's turned up and you're a little bit uncomfortable. And God's like, okay, what will you do when you're uncomfortable? Will you settle? When you're uncomfortable, will you just abandon everything that I've told you to do? Do you have step obedience? Do you do kind of what I say and kind of what you want to do? Like what core wound comes out when I ask you to do certain things? Let's address the issue, because the first step into healing a core wound, according to psychology, is to identify it. And isn't it crazy that our sovereign creator will create a process before he gives us a promotion, before he elevates us, that will require us to identify our core wound? I realize that in everything that I've been struggling with, most of my problem, most of what I've struggled with has been me. It's been me. It's been the wounds that were created from childhood on up, that I've nursed, that I've allowed to guide my decision making. Those are the things that have kept me in places I should not be. And so as God is bringing me along this journey, there's a lot I'm learning. One thing I want you guys to know and hear me very, very clearly. As soon as God gives you a promise, there is a process. And this process is not to be, oh, woe is me. Complaining is the worst thing that you can do in the process. There's nothing God detests more than you complaining. The best thing you could do is embrace the process and seek him over all things. Understand that, okay, God, I got so much trust in you. I got so much love for you. You've been so good to me that no matter how this looks, no matter how uncomfortable this is going to be, I trust you. I know that if you're putting me through this, there's a promotion with my name on it. There's a level that I don't even know I'm gonna reach. Like, I have to embrace the wilderness. We cannot, family, a lot of the problems that we see in society is people that were promoted without process. That's why they don't steward the promotion well. That's why they don't finish well, because they were promoted without process. And a lot of us try to find shortcuts. A lot of us try to settle. A lot of us do things to get out of being uncomfortable. comfortable. And that reveals your heart posture. When God turns the heat up, what do you do? When God turns the heat up in your life, how do you handle it? Whatever comes up in those moments, when God turns the heat up, reveals something about you. Do you find a way to quiet all the noise and to get yourself from being uncomfortable? Or do you stand up and say, God, I don't want to be like this no more? Cleanse me, make me pure, because when the heat's turned up with gold and the impurities rise, they take the little, I think it's like the little scalpel thing, and they clean it. They move it off the top. And that's what our Creator does. As soon as the heat's turned up and we decide, you say, you know what, God, I'm not giving up. I don't care what it looks like. I'm not giving up. You're going to have to give me strength to keep going, but I'm not giving up. I need you. And I know that you've called me to higher. And our gracious Father has given me another chance to steward this season well, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Because all the things that I chose in that place was so inferior to what God has for me. I look back at it now, I'm like, really? No disrespect, but really? Like, that wasn't even worth what God had for me. And what I believe God has for me. Like, it doesn't even come close. I know if there's anything I know, God's got something. There's no way, God. I mean, I took myself steps back because I'm trying to be comfortable. I felt like I was missing out doing it another way. And I wasn't. I want y'all to know it's not what is cracked up to be. Y'all be out here really just saying, I don't want to do it God's way. I'm uncomfortable. I don't want to do it that way. And it's like, you're actually choosing an inferior way. Like, you're actually saying, no, you know what? Forget the promise, forget the impact, forget the purpose. No, I'm just going to be uncomfortable. I'm just going to do what I want to do and not have because if you have everything, but you lack God or lack peace or lack that spiritual, sustenance, it doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't. A mansion can feel very empty. You can swim in the money that you got and do backstrokes in it. It still feel empty. You can have all the women in the world. It still feel empty. Why? Because that is external was never meant to fulfill internal. So when people try to tell me, oh, they feel, you don't. I've had people that they got lots of resources, and they're trying to call me and argue with me about God. I'm like, so you try to tell me you happy, but you want to call me and argue? Happy people don't argue. Happy people skip in fields and look at rainbows. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, I'm telling you this with all of my being, family. Trust the process. Don't try to escape. Don't try to get out of it. Because you may not understand it. Lord knows there's things that I still don't understand. But that promised land with your name on it, you want to be prepared for that. You don't want to walk into that and sabotage your entire future. Trying to shortcut a process that will ultimately not only propel you, but propel your entire lineage. Saul became king without process. He failed. David, although he had some mistakes, he wasn't perfect, man. Y'all know I like me some King David now. Anyway, David was a fighter. David was a God after God's own heart. David liked music. David was a smooth operator. Now let's not play these games, okay? David, I like me well, let me get up out of there. That's for another day, another time. David was not a perfect man, But David's heart was loyal to God. And because God could trust David's heart, David's line, his lineage from King Solomon on became the lineage of Jesus. It's the lineage that we are able to talk about today that is worshiped in churches all over the world. One of the biggest religions in the world. That is because guess what David did? David stayed faithful to the process. We can't expect promotion. We can't expect lineages. We can't expect books to be written about us over and over. We can't expect that type of thing if we are unwilling to surrender to process. God can't promote you. God can't take you to the level that you've been praying for until he can trust you in the process. Because here's the thing, family. It's much lower stakes here than it is when he promotes you. So be faithful. Don't give up. Let God do what he's doing. And trust him. Because he's more faithful than a brother. Thank you for spending your time with us on Love Samantha Lee, the More Than Just Pretty podcast. It's been a privilege to share this space with you, family, when we celebrate being unapologetically ourselves. I hope today's episode has encouraged you to embrace your own unique beauty and the beauty in others. Don't forget to follow us and join our community on social media. Share your journey and your insights, and let's continue this conversation. Until next time, remember, real beauty starts with you being true to yourself. I love you, family, and I'm going to talk to you soon.